I, 23-year-old female, have been planning a family vacation with my older brother, 30-year-old male, and his wife, my two nieces, 4 years old and 2 years old girls, and my parents. Everyone is paying for their own tickets. The vacation is booked for February. We hadn't discussed room arrangements before, but I knew the room we'd be staying in would have 3 bedrooms. So we discussed room arrangements yesterday, and my brother and parents just kind of assumed that I wouldn't mind sharing a room with my nieces, whilst my brother and his wife and my parents got their own rooms. I said I didn't want to share a room with them, and said that they should be sleeping in my brother and sister-in-law's room since they are their parents. My parents called me dramatic and said that it's not a big deal, and said that my nieces won't give me any trouble. I told them I don't care. They said I'm being a bad aunt and told me to grow up. I told them if I don't get my own room, I will cancel my ticket, which would result in everyone else having to pay more or find someone else to go in my place because we got a group discount with the resort. And my brother said I'm a whiny jerk and accused me of being a narcissist. So what do you guys think? Am I in the wrong here? You are not in the wrong. Your nieces are 4 and 2. They should sleep in the room with their parents because of their age. If they were teens, I can understand giving them their own room. I think your brother and sister-in-law just want a free babysitter. I hate when people with kids want to go on vacation, bring their kids, and dump them on someone else. This is your vacation, and you don't have kids. You are not in the wrong. 2 and 4 years old do not go to bed easily, and do not stay asleep all night. You'll likely be dealing with them during the night, and they go to bed early, so you'll be creeping around trying to be quiet in your own space when you get ready for bed. The kids need to stay with their parents, or you cancel. Easy peasy. It doesn't make you a bad aunt to not want to room with them. So, my husband is a jokester and a prankster. He has a habit of pulling pranks, especially on my birthdays. He judges my reactions as overreactions and says I should loosen up and be extra happy because he thinks he's making my birthdays extra funny. But it actually upsets me and put me in a position where I got laughed at and recorded by his family. He planned for my 26th birthday this past week, which was held at a restaurant. I told him I wouldn't go if he was going to pull one of those pranks because it's a public place, and I did not want to be publicly humiliated. He swore on his mom, promised me, and brought 2 witnesses. Wrote an agreement stating he'd pay X money if he pulled a prank. I believed him and said I'd go. I had to cancel with my parents who wanted to celebrate at their house. The day of my birthday, I got a text from one of his friend's wives telling me she heard him tell her husband about the prank he was going to pull on me at the restaurant. I was stunned as she detailed what the plan was going to be. I felt so upset and anxious. He already went ahead and got to the restaurant to make sure all was set. I ended up deciding not to go. He started calling, then texting, asking where I was and saying the party was going to start without me. I turned my phone off and went to my parents' house and had a small party there. I went home at 7 p.m. and found my husband there fuming at me. He lashed out asking why on hell did I not show up to the party after he put money, time, and effort in it. I told him why, and he called his friend's wife a liar and reminded me of all the promises he made and accused me of not trusting his word. I said I couldn't take the chance and risk having him basically ruin another birthday of mine. We had a huge argument, and then he started giving me the cold shoulder, while pointing out how I embarrassed him and wasted his time and money by not showing up. Am I in the wrong here? Not in the wrong. That's really all that's needed for a judgment here. Every post on this sub that I've seen about pranking is just immature jerks using pranking as an excuse to be immature jerks. So he either wasn't going to prank you this time, which is very unlikely based on his track record, but fails to see why he's completely untrustworthy because he set this precedent. Or he was going to prank you despite all the promises that he won't. Based on the information you receive, he most certainly was going to prank you. This is not funny or cute. Stand your ground and tell your husband you will not tolerate any more pranks and mean it. Not in the wrong. You're just pulling a prank on him by not showing up. Why doesn't he find that hilarious? He swore and his mom promised me and brought two witnesses, wrote an agreement stating he'd pay X money if he pulled a prank. I believed him and said I'd go. Definitely not in the wrong. But if you have to go through all that before you can even consider trusting him, and he still lied, why even bother with a relationship? You shouldn't need to bring in outside witnesses to convince your partner to show you respect. I live in an apartment and 3 months ago a new family moved into the apartment above me. They have a child that looks to be like about 2 years old. The first weekend that they moved in, that woman came to my door, and I'm assuming a few other people's doors as well, and introduced herself and her toddler. She also gave me a goodie bag of candies, which I thought was odd but kind. She explained that her toddler has a hard time adjusting to change, and him getting used to his new room could cause some crying, and also mentioned he's quite clingy and will cry if she sits him down. She gave me her WhatsApp to contact her if he's being too loud. I thought this was considerate and thanked her. I heard some crying the first couple weeks and didn't mention it because of the adjustment period. But after a month in, it was still happening. Her kid doesn't really cry at night anymore, but during the day I can hear his tantrums. And I work from home, so it is bothersome. I ended up sending her messages that the crying was disturbing me on 4 different occasions, and each time she took him out for a couple of hours, but then returned, and he would end up throwing more tantrums. I then made a complaint to the apartment manager and was told that they could only bring it to their attention that there was a complaint, but they couldn't evict based on a child throwing tantrums during the day. In my opinion, it seems that a parent should be able to have these tantrums under better control, so it doesn't make sense for this to be happening 3 to 4 times a day. I started to wonder if she neglected him during the day, so I made a report to CPS, and another to the sheriff's office. Officers responded the same day and looked like they left somewhat quickly after arriving, like 5 minutes. Then about a week and a half later I guess a social worker had come by because the kid's mom came to my door and asked if I reported her. I told her I did and explained why, and she was angry and told me I have no clue what it's like having a toddler, and that my actions were low and malicious. My boyfriend was over at the time and happened to overhear. He said he couldn't believe I would put her through that, called me heartless, then left. He then texted me later that night and broke up with me saying he wanted nothing to do with someone who would try getting someone's child taken away over noise. I don't think he's understanding that it's 3 to 4 tantrums a day. Am I in the wrong? You are absolutely the jerk. Like to the point where I think this is troll nonsense and not a legitimate post. You are in the wrong. And if this is true, I hope someday you understand the level of low, malicious crap you put on that poor stressed out mother and her kid. This is more or less what I was going to say. So after giving you an upvote, I'll chime in with, OP, I'm sorry but you better be a dumb troll. You are in the wrong even if you are, and you're in the wrong 1 million times if you're not, and you're actually as horrible as your post implies. You are in the wrong. Crying does not always equate to abuse. The kid is too. He's still learning how to exist. I think the mom really went above and beyond to even take him out for a few hours when you expressed a disturbance. That was very kind of her considering she's under zero obligation to do so. I know it sounds terrible, but please let me explain. My husband's sister recently got married and her wedding venue was a large estate where guests stayed overnight. It's about 3 hours away from home. When I got there, I realized that one of her bridesmaids was a childhood bully. I had no idea they knew each other since my sister-in-law didn't do any bridal parties where I would have seen photos. I honestly had no idea they knew each other at all, especially since I'm not close to my sister-in-law. My relationship with my bully, I will call her Laura, was horrible and messed me up for a long time. Our mothers were friends in a small tight-knit community, and I was essentially the punching bag for that entire group of girls. The final straw was when Laura spread a rumor that I had dated a bunch of guys in our group at the same time, something that's a big deal in our community. And even went as far as to fake a dirty text message string with one of the guys and posted it online. In a moment of weakness and frustration, I retaliated by posting a crap ton of screenshots where she and the girls were horrible to me. Things like encouraging me to throw up after meals so I looked less like Miss Piggy, and that hanging out with me was charity work. I tagged everyone from their parents/family members to just friends who would know them, and the post blew up, and it definitely impacted her social life. She was also apparently punished severely by her parents. This all happened during college, but I don't know the full extent since we all cut contact with each other. Back to the present. Laura noticed me at the reception and just lost it. She blamed me for ruining her life and called me a vindictive witch in front of everyone. At that point, my sister-in-law got involved and said that I was ruining her wedding for cousin Laura's outburst and asked me to leave. I was willing to leave the reception and go back to my room, but Laura said she couldn't stand to even be in the same space as me and insisted that I go home. Even if I wanted to, it wasn't like I could just leave. We were 3 hours away from home, and I came in one car with my husband and our 3 kids. I didn't feel comfortable driving at night by myself with the kids, and I couldn't just leave all 3 of them with my husband to figure out a carpool situation with another guest. They are all super young too and require a lot of attention. My mother-in-law and father-in-law stepped in and said Laura was out of line and that I was family, but sister-in-law said that if I didn't leave, she'd never forgive me for ruining her special day. I ended up staying because I couldn't figure out a good way to leave and manage a ride for my husband and kids. It's been 3 weeks and sister-in-law is still giving me the cold shoulder. My husband told me to just ignore her, but she's upset enough to be posting about how horrible her night was on social media. She hasn't named me directly, but I still feel terrible. So what do you guys think? You're not in the wrong. Bullies and bully sympathizers deserve everything they get. Basically, all I'm hearing is, am I in the wrong for properly defending myself against a nightmare-ish woman who created terrible lies about me? And the answer is definitely no. You are not in the wrong. Your sister-in-law is just as bad as your bully. It's not a surprise that your bully is playing the victim here. You are not in the wrong.